Well, as many of you know, Kevin Durant has demanded a trade away from the Brooklyn Nets. And now we play the waiting game. As a matter of fact, free agency is at a standstill because pretty much half the league is waiting on how this Kevin Durant situation will play out because they believe they either got a chance to acquire Kevin Durant or benefit from the Kevin Durant trade, meaning if that's acquiring Kyrie Irving, if that's acquiring Joe Harris, there is so much on the table right now that pretty much free agency, after a pretty hot start, has reached a standstill all weekend. Nothing really happened as Kevin Durant's trade demand has taken precedent, as it should for a guy that I believe to be a top 15, top 20 player of all time. But there is one detail to this story that for the life of me I've been thinking about. I've been talking about it with my peers over and over again. There's one detail, and it's by the biggest NBA reporter we got in the game today, that I can't put together for nothing. The small detail that Woj dropped of ESPN, that Kevin Durant is still open to playing with Kyrie Irving elsewhere, just not the Brooklyn Nets, has thrown me for a loop that I just can't put together. I've come up with conclusions that I'll give to you shortly, but let me explain myself a little better. Kevin Durant could have easily woke up a week or two ago and said, you know what? I don't want to play with Kyrie Irving anymore. I don't want to do this anymore with my life. It might work out. It might not. We were as healthy as we can be as a dynamic duo going into the postseason. Kevin Durant missed time in the regular season, but got healthy and was back for that Brooklyn team down the stretch. They find a way to get in the playoffs. Kyrie Irving, who's, by the way, never had a good track record with injuries, was as healthy as he could be because he missed half the season due to the vaccine mandate. The Nets got swept in the first round of the playoffs by the Boston Celtics, a team that lost to Kevin Durant's former team in the NBA Finals. Like, you didn't even get swept by the champs. You got swept by the team that lost to the champs, which just so happens to be your former team. If KD woke up and said, I'm done with this, I would say to KD, bro, I get it. If that was the sentiment, if KD said, I'm not doing this no more. Like, Kyrie, every year is something. Every year it's something. And maybe KD's got empathy for the vaccine mandate and Kyrie choosing not to put something in his body. But the previous year, when Kyrie decided to not play because of a riot at the Capitol, because Kyrie decided to not play because of random family issues in the middle of the year, that I can't go to war with that. Because Kyrie ended up missing the remainder of that Milwaukee Bucks series, a series that the Brooklyn Nets probably would have won. By the way, before Kyrie's injury, the Nets were dominating the Bucks in that series, the Bucks team that went on to win the championship. As a matter of fact, the Brooklyn Nets played Giannis and the Bucks the hardest that year. And Milwaukee was at full strength, might I add. KD could have said, yo, Kyrie, I'm done. And what I would have said is, bro, I get it. But that's not what Woj told us. Woj reported that KD would still be open to the idea of playing with Kyrie, and that has thrown me for a loop. Now, I've come up with a couple of different conclusions why I think KD is still open to playing with Kyrie. And y'all just let me know what y'all think about him, right? Number one, Woj's reporting is wrong. What if Woj's reporting is off? What if that's not true? Seems unlikely. Woj is pretty money. He gets paid a lot of money from ESPN because he's really good at what he does. I just threw out a possibility. Number one, Woj's reporting is wrong. KD really doesn't want to play with Kyrie. Okay, let me throw out scenario number two to you. You let me know what you think about this one. What if Kyrie came to KD after the Brooklyn Nets would not give him a max extension and said, yo, bro, they doing me wrong. They treat me bad. You really want to play with this organization? They won't pay me, bro. It was supposed to be me and you against with the organization. Now they're trying to put me against you. We obviously know that Kevin Durant, if nothing else, can be influenced. I believe the brother can be influenced by social media. So if a guy that he has a respect for, one of his peers, his teammate, the guy that he was supposed to go to war with post Golden State, is in his ear, and we know Kyrie's got KD's ear, and he's saying, bruh, man, these folks ain't it. Look how they did us in that scenario. That. And he got to KD, and KD was like, yeah, you're right. They did do that. We can go somewhere else. Let's go do this somewhere else together. If that happened, I wouldn't understand it under a normal circumstance. But all due respect to Kevin Durant, Hall of Fame player, first ballot for sure. One of the greatest 15, 20 to ever do it. There's a lot about Kevin Durant I wouldn't understand. So I would understand the fact that I don't understand Kevin Durant. I hope that made sense to you. That's scenario number 2. That one, I believe, has a significantly greater chance of being true than scenario number 1. Then there's scenario number 3 that came to me in the middle of the night one day. It's very interesting. I'm about to take you on a ride, so please bear with me. It kind of incorporates scenario number 1 and scenario number 2 together, right? What if Kevin Durant doesn't want to play with Kyrie Irving anymore? But he doesn't have the heart or the guts to tell Kyrie to his face, I don't want to play with you anymore. Because from there, 2 other possible scenarios could be true. Either Kevin Durant really wants to get traded from the Brooklyn Nets and is willing to do that, you know, even at the expense of breaking up what he's built in Brooklyn. We'll get to his media company in a second. If that's the scenario, if he wants just a new beginning because he doesn't want to play with Kyrie anymore, then you could kind of see that. And he didn't have the guts to say, yo, I don't want to play with you anymore, Kyrie, to his face. Then the best solution for a guy like that, we've seen that guy in our lives, right? The person that struggles with being honest, with looking a person in their eyes and telling them how they really feel. You've seen that woman before. You've seen that man before. If that's it, that kind of makes a little sense, right? Or the other possible scenario. What if KD is playing Kyrie, but again, doesn't have the guts to tell Kyrie, I don't want to play with you anymore? Meaning, what if it's one of the scenarios where the Brooklyn Nets are able to trade Kyrie first before they trade KD, and then Kyrie gets traded for, I'm going to just throw out a possible scenario, DeAndre Ayton. I know that's not even on the table right now. I'm just throwing a scenario out to you. What if there were a player that KD actually wanted to play for that came back to Brooklyn? He looks up and says, Ben Simmons? I don't know. I'm just throwing out guys. Whatever the Nets could get for Kyrie, whatever that could be. Russell Westbrook? What if KD's like, okay, and he hangs around Brooklyn, doesn't get traded? Like, what if after the trade for Kyrie goes down, Kyrie gets out of the building, KD says, I'll give it another year ago. That way he protects himself with his relationship with Kyrie. He can say, yo, I had a change of heart. The Nets can say, yo, we tried to trade KD. There was nothing else out there for him. And then KD stays in Brooklyn. If he doesn't have the guts, the mitigated gall, to tell Kyrie like, man, I don't want to play with you anymore, I think those are real possibilities. Because all of this is really tough to kind of fathom. Kevin Durant is building a media company in New York. It started. Like, again, he's rich, and his business partner is doing a phenomenal job at growing what they got going. He could do it anywhere, right? But they're growing something special in New York. It seems like KD likes his situation in New York. He's able to do podcasts, all that great stuff. I'm not sure if he's shooting in New Jersey or New York, but obviously in that area, he's very comfortable nowadays with what he's got going. You going to start that over? New employees? Ask him to move across the country, baby? We'll see. Also, the Brooklyn Nets have been great to KD. Like, can you believe this? We're already like $300 million in this KD Kyrie experiment in 3 years, what Brooklyn's paid. And they're not even getting completed regular season. They're not even getting past the first round with these two guys. Like, the James Harden was a part of this experiment. He got the heck out immediately. Now Ben Simmons is a part of this experiment. We don't know when he's going to play. Like, this has been an experiment in which the Brooklyn Nets allowed Kevin Durant to rehab on their dollar. They traded for KD right off the torn Achilles in the NBA Finals, knowing he would not play for an entire year. And they were like, it's Kevin Durant. We'll do it for you, bruh. We're committing ourselves to the franchise. See, the problem is that Kevin Durant seemingly doesn't understand is the Brooklyn Nets are all in on Kevin Durant. The Brooklyn Nets were never all in on Kyrie Irving. They're all in on KD, not Kyrie. The only way to get KD was to bring in Kyrie. I am having a hard time zoning in on a reason why KD asked for a trade this offseason, but still is open to the idea of playing with Kyrie. I am having a hard time understanding that one. And I think I painted some scenarios that make a little more sense. Either Woj was wrong, either Kyrie got the KD, or as we break down the C option, the number 3 option in the two parts, either KD didn't have the stomach to tell Kyrie that he didn't want to play with him no more, or maybe the Brooklyn Nets are trying to trade Kyrie first and then say, yo, hey, we couldn't find a trade with KD. Maybe KD behind the scenes is working with owner Joe Tsai and General Sean Marks. Those are the possible scenarios that I've come up with, because a lot of the timing of this and the specificness of this doesn't make a lot of sense.